Vanderbilt's defense is looking to create more havoc in 2026.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into this edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. I'm your host, Corey Burton, and today's episode, we're going to talk about defense. It's going to be all about defense, creating havoc. Who are going to be the impact newcomers? That's something we're going to look at. What does this defense need to accomplish so that you feel good about this unit coming out of the spring game and coming out of spring practice? What do they bring to the table? Who are the returning starters? What do they have coming into spring? And what do they need to develop coming out of spring? Are the questions we're going to answer on this edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast, plus more as we roll along. Looking at this defense made a lot of strides in 2025. They made a lot of improvement coming off of what I thought was a really good 2024 season, but they made a lot of improvements, especially in the run game. They became a team in the red zone that was tough to score on, and they became a team that was tough to run on. But where this team was deficient was in pass defense. Coverage would often break down, whether they couldn't get to the quarterback, they couldn't cover, they were busting coverage, especially late in the season, and they became a defense that just, I think a lot of momentum got away from them. They just started to become a defense that teams started to be able to move the ball on overall. So and they had a major divide. Run defense, pass defense, that was kind of the story. Now, coming out of the Iowa game, coming into the offseason, coming into portal season, Clark Lea had a very obvious goal of rebuilding and improving Vanderbilt's pass defense, and I think he did just that. This defense returns 5 starters and gains a lot of experience through the portal to add to it. This defense is more athletic and explosive than last year's version. Clark Lea and staff has built the pass defense largely through the portal, but welcome a class of really talented freshmen as well. This should be the most complete defense that he's had since arriving at Vanderbilt. And when I say complete, I'm talking athletic. I'm talking explosive. I'm talking having guys at each level that are multifaceted type players. I think he's had, especially at the safety position, I think he's been relying on experience, veteran leadership, guys that have just been program guys, tough, gritty, hard-nosed guys. But I think with that, he's also lacked a little bit of athleticism that you needed back at the safety position. I think a lot of that changed. I think a lot of that is changing. You get a much more athletic group back there. You get the ACC's leading interception getter coming into this defense with Ricardo Jones. I think you're gaining a lot on this defense. So what do they bring to the table? A team that is hungry to be a better team versus the pass. They were near the bottom of the conference in every passing statistic from a defensive perspective. They were middle of the pack. They were in the upper half of the conference in a lot of your run stats. So overall defense, they were kind of right in the middle, just below the upper half in the middle in this conference. So I think to improve that, you've got to create more havoc. I think that's the goal for this defense. You've got to create more havoc. You've got to create more takeaways, and you do that in the passing game. Strip sacks, interceptions, things like that, forced fumbles, good tackling, coverage-wise, good coverage, communication on the back end, guys that understand where they need to be, and also guys athletic enough to where if they make a mistake, they can recover. And I think they get all of that in spades. Now, with this defense, again, this is the most talented group he's had. He's got a great group of returning guys. He's got a lot of defensive backs that I think he's going to be able to do some different things with as far as personnel groupings and things like that. I think when you look at the defense overall, they've been pretty good. Leadership-wise, they've been great. They've had some high football IQ guys. They've had some playmaking ability on the defense. But I think from top to bottom, all 11 guys, I think this year's group has the most potential to have 11 guys and then some in the two deep, like the linebacking core. I think this is going to be the most athletic linebacking core that Clark Lea's ever had from top to bottom. I think Austin Howard and Jamison Curtis are two really dynamic inside linebackers. They are the second level guys. They're the backups to Bryce Cowan and Brian Longwell, who Brian Longwell is he's going to be among the best in the conference. I think he did a really good job of going in the portal and attacking the edge players as well. I think you get back Miles Capers, but you bring in also some very, very talented guys as edge defenders. Like, for example, you bring in Edwin Collenge from Boston College. You bring in Brian Allen, who's more of a defensive end, but he's also an edge guy, 6'3", 264 there. You bring in CJ Jackson, who's a little bit taller, a little bit more athletic build. He's got some explosiveness as a pass rusher. You bring him in. You bring in, from a defensive line perspective, you bring in Talon Carter, who's got great hands, who's got a lot of ability to kind of play your edge defense, just one gap closer to the ball. I mean, you've got Michael Diata, who comes in and brings a lot of depth to that defensive line, defensive end position as well, from that perspective. And of course, from a freshman class perspective, I think Daryl Campbell's going to have a lot to say on the interior. Jace McCollum on the edge, I think, is going to have a lot to say as well, as far as what kind of contributions they can make in that regard. So when you look at it from a defensive perspective, a lot of talent there, a lot of guys that can come in and do a lot of things for you. You have great defensive backs. Carson Lawrence, Dante Carter are two guys that were in the system and got a lot of playing time a year ago. Great rotational guys, and will continue to do so and kind of rotate through. And then it's going to come down to, it doesn't really matter who starts. It's going to come down situationally. It's going to come down from scouting, game plan, like who's going to, like 1 week Carson Lawrence and Dante Carter might play more than you might get. Or I think Ricardo Jones is going to play the whole time, but I think it's going to rotate kind of who's going to make an impact back there from a safety perspective. If Jalen Davies, if his waiver clears, you're going to have he adds to an already talented cornerback group that will feature Martell Hight, that will feature, of course, him, that will feature Kobe Sellers, Jordan Matthews, Jalen Lackey. I mean, you just got a star-studded group there as well. I mean, this defense, talent-wise, it's loaded. And that goes without saying. I mean, you've got a lot of guys that can contribute at a high level. I mean, just on the interior of the defensive line, you've got Issa Ottara, and you've got Glenn Seabrooks, you've got Jalen Stone, you've got Aaron Bryant still as well. And there's a lot of ability there. And it's I mean, I didn't even mention Nick Rinaldi. Like, he's somebody that's going to be outstanding in this linebacking core. I mean, it's just it's a group that has a lot of ability and and what do you do with CJ Hurd? Like, he's a returning starter. He's going to impact somewhere. It'll probably look a lot different for him this year than it did last year. I think you're going to have a role carved out for him now that Randon Fontenette is gone. You got Jalen Ruth coming back. Like, he's somebody that can make some plays close to the line of scrimmage. So you're going to have you could potentially have kind of a nice 1-2 punch depending on the situation there at the star position. So just the talent overall is there. Like, the biggest storyline is, hey, you're getting a talented group. You're getting a talented defense that's about to take the field for you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to get after the passer? What are you going to do to be disruptive? What are you going to do to create more havoc? That's the number one storyline. What are you going to do to create havoc? It's all about having this talent and doing something with it. Who are you most excited to see on this defense? What aspect of this defense are you most excited to see? what do you think needs the most improvement? Who do you think is going to have the most improvement? We need to find answers to all those questions. I want you to give me some answers as well, and follow along at home. But this is going to be an exciting bunch. What are some other things they need? What are some things they need to accomplish on a more specific level, on a more individual level? We'll talk about all of that next.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Number 1 ranked UConn dominated St. John's 85-49 on Sunday at Madison Square Garden, extending its winning streak to 47 games. The Huskies capped a perfect 31-0 regular season, including 20-0 in the Big East. UConn is winning by nearly 38 points per game, the third largest average margin in Division I history. Since 1999 to 2000, UConn has 9 undefeated regular seasons, as many as all other programs combined, and has turned 6 of those into national championships. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not just you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play by play, you decide. So trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the US. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk. It is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. If you've been thinking about joining the Everydayer Club, now is the time. Again, you get ad-free shows, access to our group chat on Discord, and if you signed up before the NCAA tournament tips off, you can get in our Everydayer Club bracket pool on Discord for a chance to win Locked On merch. Man, it should be a lot of fun. I get to put my bracket up against yours and see where it falls. Right now, you can use code MARCH to get your first month free. So head to lockedonvandy.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes. A month free, can't go wrong there. Make sure you join the Everydayers Club. All right, welcome back. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thank you for making Locked On number one. We're talking about defense. This group is talented. The number one goal, the number one question, the number one storyline for this defense is, hey, they brought it. You bring in a lot of talent. You bring in the ACC's interception leader in Ricardo Jones from Clemson. How does this defense improve against the pass? How do they create more havoc? How do they generate more takeaways? What do they do to help this team win football games? That's got to be the number one. That is the number one storyline. That's going to be, when you talk about Vanderbilt's defense, that's what you're going to talk about. Now, as a team overall, you're probably going to talk about Jared Curtis. How's this defense going to get Jared Curtis back on the field? That all kind of sets up. Can this defense help by creating havoc? Can they create some short fields? Can they score points on defense with some pick sixes or scoop and scores or whatever? Can they be dominant? They showed flashes of that last year. They were dominant in some instances, and in other instances they weren't. Against the pass, they weren't. They had, I think you just had a bad mix of defenders. I think you were weak in the safety position as far as athleticism goes, and you improved that drastically. I think you had some issues getting to the passer. I think Clark Lea's gone above and beyond to get guys that can help you do that. Brian Allen is somebody that I'm excited about. I'll talk about him more later. But what storylines with this defense exist. Can they, against the run, what do they look like from an interior perspective? How are they going to shut down the middle of the field? How are they going to stop teams from running? One of the biggest ways that teams hurt them in the run game, ironically, was a gap right down the middle. They struggled the most when teams ran right at them, when teams just straight ahead. That's where they struggled the most. But they get back Issa, and that's going to be literally and figuratively a huge addition to this Vanderbilt defensive line, because he's going to add an element to the center of that defense that's going to make it tough for teams to run in the A gaps. Glenn Seabrooks is going to be the same way, and I think you're going to have some really good talent there on the interior of this defensive line. So that's going to be a storyline there. How do they fare against the run from a defensive line perspective? Speaking of defensive line, how do they affect the passer? Can they get pressure with 4? Do they have to bring blitzes? I think later in the season, Vanderbilt felt like they had to bring blitzers in order to create problems for the quarterback. So how do they do that? How do they manage that? That's going to be a question that's going to have to be answered, and answered pretty quickly. So when you look at it from that perspective, what do they bring to the table there? This linebacking core is going to provide a lot of answers for that. If they can play the run from distance and not have to blitz, that helps out a ton in the passing game, because you've got guys that you can dedicate in coverage, or you can bring 1 or 2 of them, depending on what you want to do situationally, or just what you want to do from a havoc standpoint there. How does your corners shake out? Is Lackey, does he have any chance to contribute? Is Jalen Davies going to get his waiver cleared? I think he has a great chance to. And if he does, I think he's going to be a big part of this defense. I like him into the boundary side as kind of your Colby Taylor replacement there. Martell Hight, I felt like he had a little bit of I felt like he took a small step backwards in cover at corner. I think some of that was just, I think some of his development was stunted or interrupted because of his time spent on offense. So I don't know that experiment was worth, I don't think the juice in that experiment was worth the squeeze, so to speak. And I think it caused him to take a slight step backwards. How does he bounce back? Does he bounce back in special teams as well? What kind of impact does he make on this team? Jordan Matthews, where does he fit in? If Jalen Davies doesn't get his waiver, I mean, it's Jordan Matthews' job 100%. He's the boundary guy. But now you've got a good rotation if Davies gets his waiver cleared. So you got a good 1-2 punch there at corner. You also get Kobe Sellers that can come in as well to the field side. You've got some options. You've got a lot of options. You've got a lot of different things you can do from a coverage standpoint. Who's the other safety? What do you do with CJ Hurd? Those are questions that need to be answered. What do you do with those guys? Where do you play CJ Hurd? He's a great tackler. He's a great blitzer. Do you play him close to the line of scrimmage? Do you play him as Brandon Fontenette's position so that you can have a little bit more athleticism in Carson Lawrence and Dante Carter at the other safety position opposite of Ricardo Jones? I think you've got a good trio there to play deep safety, and they can all rotate in for each other. If Dante Carter can put on even more weight without losing speed, I think he has a chance to really have a nice year for Vanderbilt. I thought he had some great moments. Overall, I wish he was more consistent, but I think he had a lot of great moments, and he still has a lot of great potential to make some great plays for this defense. And I'm excited about the safety position. Again, this is the most athletic defensive back group that I've seen at Vanderbilt since Clark Lea got there. And this is going to be a fun group to watch. And this defense, to me, they have to prove in spring, without a shadow of a doubt, that they're able to create havoc. They're able to get after the quarterback. They're able to win one-on-one battles. Those are the things you look at from a defensive perspective. Can they do that? Can they do that in the secondary? Can they communicate? Can they dominate? And in the spring, with defense and offense, I think more from a defensive perspective, like you want them to show that they're dominant enough that they can dominate opponents, but you don't want them to dominate the offense so bad that it kind of stunts their growth a little bit, because the perfect scenario for spring is you want the offense to win enough reps. You want the defense to win enough reps to where the offense can score at will on somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, and vice versa. A defense can shut down the offense without, and that. But I think there's got to be a little give and take there to show that both units are moving ahead of schedule. Now, one may emerge quicker than the other. It's usually the defense, but this group has got a lot to prove. And there's a lot of doubters out there. There's a lot of skeptics out there that think Vanderbilt, and a lot of it is because of Jared Curtis. But also, people don't have a whole lot of faith in this defense either. And that's probably outside of stat-driven specific goals like creating more takeaways and, being better against the pass and improving against the run. I just think in total defense, in order to command respect, I think you need to see them grow overall as a unit. I think you need to see them push past all what the doubters are saying, because Vanderbilt is, again, going to be picked to finish near the bottom of the conference. And if they want to continue to prove that they're a viable team, they've got to push past all that. Offensively, if you listen to the previous episode, you know what they need to do offensively. But defensively, they have to create more turnovers. They have to get off the field on third down. They have to be an even better third down team. At times, they were a dominant third down team. Like teams, if you got to third down, it was over, especially if it was third medium or more. That was it. That was a wrap. You're punting, right? You're punting. And that's, as the season wore on, I think you had people, fatigue kind of played in the factor of it. I think teams started kind of figuring out where their weaknesses were. They became more glaring, especially in the pass game. And third downs started to become a coin flip, so to speak. And Vanderbilt's defense, I think, struggled with it. I think they started tanking in their rankings a little bit. But, it's just got to be – you just got to prove that from a defensive perspective, you can get it done, that you can get off the field, that you can create takeaways, that you can defend the pass, that your passing numbers can get into the upper half. I think if you can live in the upper half of defensive statistics, both run and pass, that will all obviously bring your total defensive stats up into the upper half. And I think if you can live in the upper half as a defense, you can eventually, your offense will catch up and also become an upper half team. And then you improve from there. Again, the goal is about raising the floor. If you can raise the floor about what this defense can do, then eventually you can start focusing on the ceiling. But for now, you got to raise the floor. And the floor has got to be getting out of the cellar in pass defense. The floor has got to be launching yourself into that upper echelon of total defense. And to me, Clark Lea's done a phenomenal job of diving into the portal to get guys with experience, getting into the high school ranks and getting guys that fit what you want to do, that could also, I feel like, contribute in some ways. And you just have a great nucleus of guys on defense. And again, talent-wise, it's loaded. So I'm going to talk about some of these impact players. We know what the starters can bring. I want to talk more about the guys that we don't know a whole lot about. We're going to do that. We're going to wrap up the show right here. It's Locked On Vandy. Coast Pay is giving Locked On College listeners up to $2,000 credit for your business when you get started today. If you manage a crew, construction, HVAC, landscaping, any operation that has trucks on the road, you already know how messy gas and material spending can get. Cards get shared, receipts disappear, and month end turns into a headache. Coast Pay fixes all of that. Coast Pay is a modern fuel card, an expense management tool built specifically for fleets, fuel, maintenance, materials, all in one card with real control and instant visibility. Every transaction shows up the moment it happens, with no surprises. If someone fuels up at an odd time or tries to buy something outside their limit, well, you know instantly. Real-time alerts, so you always know who's spending on what and where. Automatic receipts capture that makes the month end simple. Fraud protection with employee check-ins by text, which means no shared pins. It works anywhere Visa is accepted. No detours to specific stations. It's built for operators who don't have time to chase paperwork. And unlike old fuel cards, there's no contracts or commitments, just smarter expense control. So right now, CoastPay is offering our listeners up to $2,000 credit when you get started at coastpay.com/lockedoncollege. Go to coastpay.com/lockedoncollege to see how you can earn up to $2,000 credit. Terms apply. Coast Visa commercial credit cards issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. The 5 Hour Energy Draft is set. There's 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. And because I'm at the beach, I caught some really nice fish today, had that tropical breeze, so why not do the Hawaiian breeze? You feel the breeze, you taste the caffeine. It's made with passion fruit, orange, and guava flavors. It's smooth. It's sweet yet smooth. It's tangy yet tart. It's a really, really good flavor. Also, Tropical Burst is something that's also really good. It's got that tasty caffeine with island vibes. It's juicy, fruit-forward, tropical profile. Sweet with a light tang, smooth, rounded flavor, bright and sunny taste impression. Island-style fruit punch vibe, all of that right there packed into a little tiny 5 Hour Energy shot. And did you know that 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar? Well, now you do. So find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. All right, wrapping up the show here, Locked on Vandy. Talking about defense. Number one goal, create havoc. Raise the floor. Gain that respect. Because a lot of people think you can't do it. And you have a chance to prove them wrong in 2026. And it starts right here in the spring by finding playmakers that can create havoc. Who are the backups that could potentially come up through the ranks? Could Jamison Curtis, could Austin Howard break through and gain one of those starting positions? What do you do with Nick Rinaldi? He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. Miles Capers. There's a lot of things out there, a lot of storylines out there. But we know what we got in our returners. Martell Hight, Brian Longwell, Glenn Seabrooks, Miles Capers, CJ Hurd, like those guys, I think you know what they're bringing to the table. Those are your key returners. And for CJ Hurd, it's really just all about finding that perfect spot for him, finding the place where he can thrive the most. Now, you have another category of returners. They're called returners, sort of, because they were rotational guys. They were guys that played a good bit and they made a good impact, but they're going to be more heavily relied on this coming season. Like Jordan Matthews could potentially be a starter. And if this thing drags out with Jalen Davies, Jordan Matthews could be the starter and Davies could come in and be the rotational guy. Dante Carter, he has a chance to earn a starting spot opposite of Ricardo Jones. Bryce Cowan, he has a chance. He's going to be competing with Nick Rinaldi, so there's going to be a nice position battle there as well as Dante Carter and Carson Lawrence at the safety position opposite of Ricardo Jones. And Ricardo Jones has got to come in and fight for his spot as well. It's not necessarily set in stone, but he is the SEC's interception leader, so I feel like he has a pretty good leg up. Now, of the impact newcomers of that category, Issa's coming off an injury. I think he's going to come in and just wreak a lot of havoc. But your impact newcomers, the guys I'm most excited about are Ricardo Jones, I think you have a chance with Kobe Sellers to be a really good rotational guy at the cornerback position. I think him and Martell Hight will be a great 1-2 punch in that defensive backfield. I'm really excited about all the edge players that are coming in. Brian Allen being one of them. CJ Jackson, I think from a pass rush standpoint, is a guy that really has a chance to electrify this defense a little bit. I think he's got enough. I think he's got enough in the tank. I think he's got enough ability to be a guy that can wreak havoc in a lot of different ways. Brian Allen at Iowa, he had a sack on Diego Pavi in the bowl game. He was going to be a starter for the Hawkeyes. He comes over to Vanderbilt, says, hey, I want to be in the SEC. You have Talon Carter as a defensive lineman, defensive tackle, interior guy. I think in certain situations he can pass rush from the interior, but ultimately he's going to be taking on tackles and, B gap, C gap type situations. So he's somebody that's quick off the ball, has great hands and great feet. I think could do a lot of things. I think you're going to hear his name mentioned a lot this upcoming season. So I'm excited to see all of the impact that all of these guys bring to the table. And when you look at it again from that perspective, I think you have a lot of guys coming in. Carson Lawrence is not listed on this, but I think he has a chance to really make a massive impact as well. And then of the freshmen, I think you have potential for some guys to make some experience. And Daryl Campbell is somebody from a defensive line perspective, I think has a chance to get into the rotation a little bit. Chris Tangelo, I think, is going to be interesting from a freshman standpoint to see kind of how they use him. Do they use him as a deep safety? Is he a line of scrimmage guy? Kind of like what Fontenette was, kind of like what they might want to do with Ruth or Hurd, or what that case may be. Can Colin Flanagan jump in and make an impact from a cornerback standpoint? What do you do there? Jace McCollum, is he a potential edge guy, pass rusher guy that could develop and get a few snaps here and there? This defense rotates a lot of guys, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that some of these freshmen get in. From a safety standpoint, there's a lot of options there too as well. So different, again, talent-wise, I feel like this is a loaded group. Talent-wise, this group can really excel in the SEC. And with this schedule, I think they have a chance outside of a couple of games. I think they have a chance to help this team compete. I think they have a chance. Ole Miss that's going to be a tough one. Trinidad's the best quarterback in the conference. So that game's going to be an uphill climb from the beginning. Georgia the same way. You have to go to Athens. And that's going to be an uphill climb. It always was going to be. And now that the whole Jared Curtis thing, that gives him a little extra juice. So that's going to be an uphill climb. Gunnar Stockton is a truly talented quarterback. But outside of like those two games, I don't see another team on this schedule to where you can definitively say that's going to be a handful or this is going to be that. I think this defense has a chance that if they come out and they find their groove, if they find ways that they can create havoc, and in a variety of ways, so that when they stop option 1, they can go to option 2, and then option 3, 4, and 5, and then rotate through those options and find different ways to beat different teams and be good enough and talented enough to be their talent. They are talented enough and good enough to be able to do that. It's just a matter of how quickly they find that, how well they utilize it in situations, and then just straight up execution. Can they execute what this team is set out to execute against whatever defense or whatever offense? They have the capability of doing it. Can they do it? Can they do it on a consistent basis? That's going to be the biggest test for this defense. But I think the first level of this test, I think the first glimpse of whether or not we can project that they will do it is going to be this spring. And you're going to see a group that is going to have to gel quickly. But but nonetheless, this team is going to be havoc-minded, and this team is going to be ready to ready to blow the lid off this program. Again, it's going to be Clark Lea's most talented group, and it's going to be a group that is havoc oriented and wants to make a statement in 2026. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining. We're going to continue this football talk all throughout spring, all throughout the summer leading into fall camp. Of course, baseball as that season unfolds, and basketball as they wrap things up as well. Can the men and women make a run into March Madness? We're going to find out very, very quickly. But I'm going to cover it right here on this show each and every step of the way. And Michaela Blake's, if she doesn't get National Player of the Year, I don't know. I'm going to lose faith in everything women's basketball if she doesn't get National Player of the Year. She's outstanding. But we're going to talk about all of that right here on the show, plus more. Make sure you join the Everydayers Club as well. If you're a loyal listener, the link's down below, lockedonvandy.supercast.com to join below. Just $5 monthly, $50 a year. Make sure you join that as well. And make sure you make your second listen Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On SEC, Locked On College Football, whatever it may be. Go over to audio and check those shows out. But until next time, anchor down. Peace.